Story number 1. Duplicate key. I got back from the grocery store around 3 in the afternoon. The sky had that flat grey look it gets in Portland when it might rain or might not, just hangs there making everything feel damp. I was juggling 2 canvas bags and my keys when I caught it in the hallway. Cologne. Not strong, but definitely there. Something woody and sharp that I didn't recognize. I figured Tom, the building manager, had finally shown the empty unit next door. It had been vacant since August, and I'd heard him mention wanting to get it rented before winter. Made sense. I unlocked my door and kicked it shut behind me with my heel. The apartment felt normal. Same slightly stale air from keeping the windows closed. Same hum from the refrigerator. I set the bags on the counter and started unpacking, putting the milk away first, then the eggs. That's when I saw them. Wet footprints on the kitchen tile. 3 of them, partial, leading from near the doorway toward the living room. I looked down at my sneakers. Dry. The treads didn't match either. Mine have a waffle pattern. These were different, narrower, deeper grooves. My first thought was that I'd tracked something in earlier and forgotten, but I'd been out for maybe 45 minutes and I hadn't stepped in anything wet. The pavement outside was dry. I stood there staring at those prints, trying to make them make sense. Maybe the building manager had come in. Maybe there was a leak he needed to check. But Tom always texted first. Always. And I would have noticed water damage. I left the rest of the groceries on the counter and walked through the apartment. Everything looked untouched. The bathroom was the same. Bedroom was the same. My desk in the corner of the living room had my laptop right where I always left it. Except I stopped, looked at it again. My laptop sits exactly 2 inches from the right edge of my desk. I've worked from home for 6 years. I know where I put things. This was maybe 4 inches from the edge. Shifted left. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe I'd moved it this morning and didn't remember. Maybe I was just tired. I'd been up late finishing a client project, but I opened it anyway. Woke it from sleep mode. The browser was still open. I checked the history. My full name. Searched 4 times in the past 2 hours. My Instagram, my LinkedIn, my portfolio website, my Facebook profile. I barely use anymore. I've never searched my own name on this laptop. Never needed to. The room felt smaller suddenly. I looked at the door. I'd locked it. I always lock it, even when I'm just going downstairs to check the mail. I went back to the kitchen and looked at the shoe prints again. They were already starting to dry at the edges, fading into the tile. I took a picture with my phone. My hand was shaking a little. I found the rubber doorstop I keep in the junk drawer and wedged it hard under the front door. Then I called Tom. It went straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I called again. Same thing. The non-emergency police line took 3 rings to answer. The woman who picked up sounded bored. I explained about the footprints, the laptop, the search history. She asked if anything was missing. I said I didn't think so. She asked if I felt in immediate danger. I said I didn't know. She said she'd send an officer when one was available. Could be 30 minutes, could be longer. I sat on the couch facing the door and waited. That's when I heard it. Metal sliding into metal. Quiet. Deliberate. A key going into my deadbolt from the outside. I stopped breathing, just stared at the door. The key turned. I heard the bolt try to move, but the doorstop held. The door pressed inward, maybe half an inch, and stopped. Silence. Then the key withdrew. Slow. Careful. I waited for a knock. For a voice. For Tom saying he needed to check something. But there was nothing. Just the sound of footsteps moving away down the hall. Soft, unhurried. I sat there for probably 5 minutes before I could move. Then I checked the peephole. The hallway was empty. The police came 43 minutes later. 2 officers. A man and a woman. They checked the hallway, the stairwell, the other floors. No one. They knocked on the other occupied units. No one had seen anyone. They took my statement. Looked at the photo of the shoe prints, which were almost completely dry now. Asked about the browser history. Wrote everything down. The male officer asked if I'd given anyone a key. I said no. He asked about the building manager. I said Tom had a master key, but he always texted first. Tom finally called me back while the officers were still there. He sounded confused, said he hadn't been in my unit, hadn't shown the vacant apartment today, said he'd checked the maintenance log. He texted me a screenshot 10 minutes after the police left. The log was digital, time-stamped, no entries for my unit, no entries for the building at all that day. The officers said to call again if anything else happened. They'd include it in their report. The woman gave me a card with a case number on it. They suggested I have the landlord change my locks. It's past midnight now. I'm lying in bed with all the lights on. The doorstop is still wedged under the front door. I can see it from here. I keep staring at it. Someone has a key that isn't supposed to exist. They've been inside my apartment. They know what I look like now, where I work, everything about me they could find online, and they know I'm aware of them. The cologne smell is gone from the hallway. I checked an hour ago, but I keep thinking about those footprints, how they were still wet, how that means they'd been here recently, maybe just before I got home. Maybe they were still here when I walked in. I don't know if I'll sleep tonight. I don't know if the doorstop will be enough. And I keep thinking about that key sliding into the lock, how slow it was, how deliberate, like they were testing something, like they wanted to know if I'd changed anything. Story number 2, loading dock. I've been a warehouse supervisor for 16 years, and the one thing I've learned is that routine keeps you safe. Every delivery has a time slot. Every manifest gets verified. Every driver signs the log. When you let things slide, that's when accidents happen. That's when inventory goes missing. That's when people get hurt. So when headlights swept across the loading dock at 8:17 on a Tuesday night, 90 minutes before the scheduled delivery, I felt it immediately. That small wrongness in my chest. I was alone in the distribution center, finishing the evening inventory reconciliation. The rest of the crew had clocked out at 7. Just me and the hum of the overhead lights and the space heaters clicking on and off in the cold. We're out in rural Pennsylvania, 20 minutes from the nearest town, surrounded by fields and state forest. Quiet. Safe, usually. The truck backed up to Bay 3 with practiced precision. I watched through the office window as 2 men climbed out of the cab. They wore the correct uniforms, dark blue jackets with the company logo, steel-toed boots, high-visibility vests. One carried a tablet. The other had a clipboard with what looked like manifests. I told myself it made sense. Dispatch sometimes reroutes drivers when weather gets bad. There'd been reports of ice storms up north, delays on the interstate. Maybe they'd pushed this delivery up to keep the schedule from collapsing tomorrow. I grabbed my own tablet and headed down to the loading dock, pulling on my jacket. The cold hit me as soon as I opened the exterior door. February in Pennsylvania. The kind of cold that gets into your joints. "Evening," the driver called out. He was maybe 40, stocky with a thick beard. "Sorry about the early arrival. Dispatch called it in about 2 hours ago." I shut down. Route 80, so they rerouted half the northern deliveries. "Nobody called me," I said. He shrugged. "You know how it is. Probably tried your desk line. We've been driving since 4 this morning. Just want to get unloaded and get home." The second man, younger and thinner, nodded. He had a handheld scanner in his hand, the kind drivers use to log deliveries. Except it didn't look quite right. The casing was generic, no company branding. "Let me see the manifest," I said. The driver handed over his clipboard. The paperwork looked correct. Shipment codes, destination codes, my signature line at the bottom. But I've processed thousands of these, and something felt off about the weight. The paper was too crisp, too new. "We've got automotive parts, right?" I asked. "Brake assemblies and gaskets." "That's right," the driver said. He'd moved slightly to his left, positioning himself between the exterior security camera and the truck bed. Casual, natural, but deliberate. The younger man walked past me toward the truck's rear door, and that's when I smelled it. Sharp. Chemical. Like ammonia mixed with something metallic. It cut through the diesel exhaust and the cold air. Nothing like the oil and rubber smell of automotive parts. "Hold on," I said. "I need to verify these codes in the system first." "We're on a tight schedule," the driver said. His tone hadn't changed, but his eyes had. Flat, watchful. The younger man was already rolling up the truck's rear door. I saw boxes inside, unmarked. Plain brown cardboard with no shipping labels. And hanging from his belt, half hidden by his jacket, was a coil of black zip ties. The heavy-duty kind. The kind you use for securing pallets or wiring or other things. My heart started beating faster, but I kept my voice level. "Company policy. I have to verify every delivery in the system before we unload. It'll just take a minute." I took a step backward toward the interior door. The driver moved forward. Not rushing, just closing the distance. "We can wait inside while you check," he said. "It's cold out here." "That's okay," I said. "I'll be right back." Another step backward. The younger man had stopped unloading. He was watching me now. Both of them were watching me. I've worked alone in this warehouse hundreds of times. Late shifts, weekend inventory. I've never felt afraid. But right then, with those two men staring at me and that chemical smell in the air and those zip ties hanging from the belt, I felt it. The certainty that something was very wrong. "Just give me 5 minutes," I said, and I turned and walked through the interior door, forcing myself not to run. I heard footsteps behind me. The driver was following me inside. The supervisor office is elevated, accessible by a metal staircase with windows overlooking the warehouse floor. I climbed the stairs quickly, pulling my keycard from my pocket. The driver was at the bottom of the stairs now, one hand on the railing. "I'll wait down here," he called up. I swiped my keycard through the reader. The lock clicked, but I'd held the card against the reader for 3 seconds, not one. The silent alarm. It sends a direct alert to the county sheriff and the company's security monitoring service. No sound, no warning light. I stepped inside the office and locked the door behind me. Through the window I could see the younger man still standing by the truck. He was on his phone now, talking quickly. The driver stood at the bottom of the stairs, looking up at me, not moving, just waiting. I picked up the radio. "This is Supervisor Marcus Chen at the Route 19 Distribution Center. I have a Code 7 situation. 2 unidentified individuals on site. Request immediate law enforcement response." The radio crackled. "Copy that, Marcus. Units are en route. Estimated arrival 12 minutes. Stay in the office. Do not engage." Through the window I saw the younger man suddenly sprint back to the truck. He shouted something. The driver turned and ran. They didn't get back in the delivery truck. Instead, they ran to the far corner of the lot, where a dark sedan had been idling. I hadn't even noticed it before. It was parked in the one blind spot where the exterior cameras couldn't see. The sedan's tires screamed as it accelerated out of the lot, headlights off, disappearing down the access road. The delivery truck sat there, rear door still open, engine running. I stayed in the office. I kept the door locked. I watched that truck and waited for the police. They arrived 9 minutes later. 3 patrol cars. The deputies cleared the truck, checked the warehouse, took my statement. One of them looked inside the unmarked boxes and immediately called for backup. The real delivery driver was found 40 minutes later. State police discovered him in his own truck, parked behind a closed rest stop 3 miles down the highway. He was bound with zip ties, conscious but dehydrated. He'd been there for 6 hours. The men had ambushed him during his scheduled rest break, taken his uniform jacket and his manifests, left him locked in his own cab. The boxes contained precursor chemicals: methylamine, pseudoephedrine, acetone. Everything you need to manufacture methamphetamine. The plan, the detective explained, was to unload the chemicals into our warehouse, mixed in with legitimate automotive shipments. When the DEA raided us, we'd be implicated in federal trafficking charges. The distribution center would be shut down, investigated, destroyed, and I would have been the supervisor who signed for it. I still work the late shift. I still do inventory alone. But now when I hear an engine outside, when headlights sweep across the loading dock, I feel it. That small wrongness. And I check the schedule twice. I verify every face. I trust the routine because the routine is all that kept me safe. The cameras in the far corner of the lot still have that blind spot. The company says they'll fix it. They haven't yet. Story number 3. Borrowed login. I got the email at 3:47 on Friday afternoon, one of those automated security notifications that usually goes straight to my spam folder. The subject line read, "Unusual account activity, credential access report." I almost deleted it without opening it. The clinic was quiet. Most of the staff had already left for the weekend. I could hear Dr. Dicta Patel in his office down the hall talking on the phone. The fluorescent light above my desk had been flickering all day, that strobing effect that makes your eyes hurt if you stare at the screen too long. I opened the email. It showed my login credentials had accessed 73 patient files at 2:03 in the morning the previous night, Thursday night. I'd been home asleep. I'd watched 2 episodes of something forgettable and gone to bed around 11. My first thought was the system update. They'd installed new security software the week before, and things had been glitchy ever since. Timestamps showing up wrong, access logs duplicating entries. IT had sent around an apologetic memo about it. I forwarded the email to myself to deal with Monday and went back to filing discharge summaries. But it sat there in my head. 73 files. That was a lot, and 2 in the morning was specific. Marcus, the IT contractor who'd done the installation, was still in the building. I could hear him working in the server room across the hall, that constant low hum of equipment and the occasional beep. I got up and knocked on the doorframe. "Hey, quick question," I said. "I got one of those automated security emails. Says I accessed a bunch of files at 2 in the morning yesterday. That's just the timestamp bug, right? From the update." Marcus looked up from his laptop. His expression changed, not confused, something else. "What do you mean, timestamp bug?" he said. "You know, the glitch. The memo said timestamps were logging incorrectly." He shook his head slowly. "Sarah, the timestamp logging was the one thing we specifically fixed. That was the whole point of the update. The auditors flagged it as a compliance issue." My stomach dropped a little. "So the timestamps are accurate now?" "They've been accurate since we installed the patch. That was the priority fix." I went back to my desk. The fluorescent light flickered, off for a full second, then back on. I pulled up the access log on my workstation, entering my credentials. The system showed my login history going back 30 days. There it was. Thursday, 2:03 in the morning. 73 files accessed over the course of an hour and 14 minutes. I scrolled through the list. Patient names I recognized, addresses, social security numbers, insurance information. Everything you'd need for identity theft or insurance fraud. I was staring at the screen when a new entry populated at the bottom of the log. Friday, 4:18 in the afternoon. Patient file opened. My credentials, right now. I looked at the IP address. I didn't recognize it. It wasn't the clinic's network. Someone was accessing the system under my login while I was sitting here watching it happen. My hands were shaking when I opened the password reset portal. I forced a new password, logged out, then physically disconnected the network cable from my workstation. The screen went blank where the active session had been. I walked fast to Dr. Patel's office. He was off the phone, packing his briefcase. "We have a problem," I said. 20 minutes later, Marcus had pulled the security footage from Thursday night. My supervisor, Linda, stood behind us. Dr. Patel had called the clinic's attorney, who was on speakerphone. The parking lot camera showed the usual empty spaces under the orange sodium lights. Marcus fast-forwarded to 1:30 in the morning. Nothing. 1:45, nothing. Then at 1:56, a car pulled into the lot. Silver Honda Civic. It parked in my assigned spot, number 12. My spot. My car. That's not possible, I said. I was home. The timestamp in the corner of the footage read 1:58 in the morning when a figure got out of the car. The camera angle was wrong. I couldn't see the face, just a dark jacket and jeans. The person walked toward the front entrance and disappeared from frame. Marcus pulled up the keycard access log, my badge number, scanned at the front door at 1:58 in the morning. The figure reappeared on camera at 3:11 in the morning, walked back to the silver Honda and drove away. Pull up the plate, Linda said. Marcus zoomed in on the rear bumper. The resolution was grainy but readable. My license plate number. I felt cold. That's my plate. But I was home. I swear I was home. Dr. Patel made a call, then another. Within 40 minutes, 2 police officers arrived. One of them, Officer Brennan, asked me to pull up my neighbor's doorbell camera footage. My neighbor had installed one of those video doorbells 6 months ago, the kind that records constantly. I logged into the app on my phone. My hands were still shaking. I found Thursday night, scrolled to 1:30 in the morning. The camera faced the street, and my driveway was visible in the lower right corner. My silver Honda sat in the driveway. It didn't move. At 2:14 in the morning, a cat walked across the frame. At 3:07, a car drove past. My Honda stayed exactly where it was. Someone cloned your plate, Officer Brennan said. Probably cloned your key card too. Do you keep your work badge in your car? Sometimes, I said. In the center console. When's the last time you checked? I didn't answer. I couldn't remember. The other officer, Ramirez, started taking notes. They asked about disgruntled co-workers, ex-boyfriends, anyone who might have access to my information. I couldn't think of anyone. I'd been promoted 3 months ago. I didn't have enemies. I didn't have drama. Marcus printed out the list of patient files that had been accessed. 73 names. The officers said they'd need to contact each one, warn them about potential identity theft. I'd have to make a statement downtown. They'd need my car to check for signs of tampering. It was after 7 when everyone finally left. Linda told me to go home, take the weekend, come back Monday when we'd figured out next steps. But I had to finish logging the files that had been accessed. It was my responsibility, my credentials. I sat alone at my desk. The fluorescent light flickered. Off, on, off, on. I pulled up the access log one more time, just to document everything for the police report. I was scrolling through when I happened to glance out the window. Across the street, in the pharmacy parking lot, a silver Honda Civic sat idling under the streetlight. Same model as mine. I couldn't see the plate from this distance. I stood up. The car didn't move. I walked to the window. The light above me flickered again, and in the strobing darkness, I couldn't tell if anyone was sitting in the driver's seat. When the light came back on, the Honda was rolling forward slowly, headlights off, moving toward the parking lot exit. I watched it turn onto the main road and disappear. I don't know if it was the same car from the footage. I don't know if someone was watching the building, waiting to see if I'd noticed. But I stood there at the window for a long time after it was gone, and I kept thinking about my badge in the center console and how many times I'd left my car unlocked in this parking lot because it felt safe. Because nothing ever happened here. The fluorescent light flickered above me. I didn't move. I just watched the empty street and wondered how long they'd been watching me back.